Welcome, everyone. This is Brian Belay from Crowdwise.org. At Crowdwise, we're building a community for startup investors and founders, specifically in equity crowdfunding. Now, today, I'm very excited to be here with Pranav, CEO and co-founder of Glyph, currently raising on Republic. So what we're going to do today is dig into a little bit more of the details about Glyph as a business for all the investors out there. And for any of the founders and entrepreneurs who are also watching this, we'll be asking some questions to get some of his insights in terms of why they chose equity crowdfunding and what some of the benefits of that are. So first off, welcome, Pranav. Thank you for joining me and us today. To start out, why don't you give us a quick intro, who you are, what Glyph is, and how you came to work on it?
Absolutely, Brian. Thanks for having me. So my name is Pranav Sachdev. I am the co-founder and CEO of Glyph, and Glyph is a direct-to-consumer shoe company. We make the only pair of shoes that anyone needs to own. And for us, our guiding principle has always been around minimalism. I was been a minimalist for my entire life. It's really a philosophy I got from my grandfather, and it's something really where he was a guy. He did pretty well. He was a scientist, but didn't really own a lot of things. Didn't care about material possessions, and used all his energy, kind of in his local community, to have events to help people out. And I think, his teaching to me was that minimalism is something that will let you focus more on whatever is important to you. So for him, it was for community, and I kind of grew up with that philosophy. And when I was in grad school at Cornell, I lived in one of those small New York apartments. Didn't have a lot of money. I was traveling a lot. Our shoe rack was overflowing. So I was like, God, it'd just be great to have one pair of shoes. And started thinking about that. And we just started doing my co-founder and I started doing a ton of customer interviews, just heard the same things over and over again, like people not knowing what shoes to travel with, having to switch shoes throughout the day, keeping shoes under their desk. And we heard so much of the same stories over and over again. That really gave us the confidence to start Glyph. So that's our beginning story.
That's awesome. And so I think you started touching on it with the minimalist and, kind of some of the other movements that are going on. But what are some of the unique insights? Like what makes Glyph shoes different and unique?
I think we have this unique feature set that we're working towards. So we're always trying to make the shoes usable in different, even more scenarios. And, we have customers that just wear Glyphs to the beach. They wear them when they're kind of at home, all the way to one guy who wore them to his own wedding reception. And we're constantly building, and I thought that was a little much, but he looked great, and they do look good with the tux too. So, but it's all about just building up that feature set. So we started making them more and more antimicrobial, so people can wear them with or without socks. We made them water resistant because we realized that people might want to wear them in the rain and they don't want them to get damaged. And so that's really kind of those are guiding principles really drive our feature set.
Okay, interesting. So we'll come back to that in a few minutes, maybe, and we can talk more about the business. One thing I'm interested in, I think probably a lot of founders and entrepreneurs who are watching this are interested in is, equity crowdfunding is kind of this new way of raising capital. It's been around for a few years, right? Now you guys, I believe, are backed by 500 startups, Cornell University, some traditional angels. I think I'm curious for asking on behalf of these founders, why are you guys doing a equity crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah, it really, when we started out, wasn't something that was on our radar at all. And what happened was we had this customer that bought a pair of Glyphs and he loved them so much. He's a founder in his own right. He ended up investing $100,000 in us. And he was just a guy that we had targeted with a Facebook ad. And so we were like, wow, okay, this is something. And wouldn't it be great if we could build a community of people that are invested in the company and get to share the financial benefit? And the great thing about these platforms like Republic is that they let you do it in a really scalable way. So the problem with angel investing is you have to take checks of a certain size because you have all these people on your cap table and there's legal fees. And so with something like Republic, you can let in people that want to do a smaller check but still want to gain in the financial benefits, still want to be a part of the community. And so for us, we're like, great, let's build up our own diehard community, and we have all these people that believe in what we're doing. Let's build a community-owned company, And so that was really the impetus for us.
That's awesome. And then also, so you guys obviously ended up going with Republic for your current raise. Can you talk about maybe, one or two of the factors that led to that decision? There's all these different portals and websites out there, right? What was it that kind of attracted you to Republic?
Yeah, it is kind of a brave new world out there. And we didn't, so I think for us, honestly, there's a lot of personal connection. I had kind of run into Chuck, who's now the CEO of Republic, at an event in San Francisco. And kind of got to know him. And in addition to that, one of the founders that I'm close with at 500, Liz, she's the founder at Nano, and she had raised on Republic. And so kind of between those two people, I was like, okay, because a lot of it was trust. We're like, what, because all these platforms are fairly nascent. And so that was a big deal for us, I think.
Okay. And then have you had, if you had like one or two tips or words of advice for some of these people who are considering doing a crowdfunding campaign, what are kind of some of the biggest takeaways you've taken so far that you could share with them?
I think a lot of it is about building your community. So it's like pushing your audience to that platform. And it's a great test, I think, because you're explaining this to a lot of people. And these people may not be investment professionals in their daily life. So it's really this test of like, can you simply explain like what your business is and why it exists and like why people should invest in it? And it's really this really great test, I think, to do that. So I think it's a great validation of a business. Yeah, I think the other learning we've had is like, there are some, you do have to like really put some effort into getting it up and running. And I think we weren't fully aware of what that when we got into it, and it wasn't too bad, but you like, so like you have to do this, like this filing with the SEC and go work with the lawyers on that. And for us, we didn't use accrual accounting because, at our business scale, it doesn't really make too much sense. But to do the filing, you have to switch to accrual. And so there are like some startup costs and effort. I think it probably took us about 3 weeks to get all that stuff done. I think 3 to 5 weeks is probably what I would caution people that it will take just to get it running. So I think those are the things that we learned going through the early stages of the process.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it, Pranav. And I'm sure, the other issuers and potential, startups and entrepreneurs out there looking to use this will find that valuable. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go back to Glyph and kind of your business. I'm curious, you started to mention, the versatility of these, kind of that you can wear them and they're comfortable in all these different situations. Who is like your ideal customer? Do you have like that avatar or persona? Do they really apply broadly? Like, how do you look at your target audience with this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it took us a while to understand it because we had all these hypotheses about who our customers would be, and they weren't necessarily right at the beginning. But over time, we've learned there's really two groups. So the first is our kind of core diehard customer base, and those are people that are philosophically minimalists. Say identify as minimalists, they're active in the minimalism community, they're trying to live a minimalist life already. And so they're the people that really spread the word. They're kind of our super spreaders. But then there's this much broader swath of the population. So 1/3 of the population really considers them to be minimalist or to aspire to that. And so we get a lot of people that just it's like very practical for them. So they wear glyphs because it's just like they want to travel and they don't know what to wear, or they like want to, they're not, they like have business meetings, but they want to look more professional and be comfortable at the same time. And they're walking a lot. So those are kind of how we think about the groups, where we have like this smaller go to market, but that's really spreading the word about us. And then we have this much bigger audience that's kind of like is going to allow us to scale our business.
That's awesome. And I think, kind of a perfect transition. So like when you guys are looking at your go-to-market strategy and all that, like where are you today in terms of the timeline of things and, where you're looking to go?
Yeah, I think so for us, we've always sold out very quickly. And that, people they're like, oh, that's a good problem, but it's still a problem. And so like for us, our challenges this year have been like we need to scale up our working capital, which is part of our traditional fundraise and Republic, and also scaling up our manufacturing. And what's happened is we were selling out so quickly. So what you should be doing is going omni-channel, but we were just kind of selling out through word of mouth, Facebook, Instagram. But as we get more and more inventory, we're hoping to get into more channels and do a lot of email, do a lot of podcasts, do a lot of SEO and SEM. And I think the reality of all these channels is that you're going to get declining marginal returns at some level of spend. And so what you want to do is figure out a channel, really focus down on it, get it to work, scale it up, figure out like how big can I make this channel and still be reasonably profitable, and then kind of put it in maintenance mode and then move on to the next one. And so we're starting to get into that stuff now, which is exciting.
Got it. I'm kind of curious myself, but have you guys seen any impact in terms of, a lot more people kind of being remote right now with the whole COVID-19 situation and everything else? Has that, have you had sales recently in the past few months, and what's that kind of looked like compared to prior periods?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's actually been a lot of opportunity. At the beginning of COVID, what happened is, so we were using these ad platforms like Facebook and Instagram and they, the cost of an ad is called a CPM, cost per mil. That's the cost of 1,000 impressions. And so that cost just absolutely plummeted in the beginning of the pandemic because you had, nobody was advertising anymore, and it's a marketplace, right? So, but you had, the movie theaters weren't advertising, restaurants weren't advertising, nobody was advertising, right? Everybody was like scared and like trying to figure out how to avoid layoffs. And so I just started buying ads because they were so cheap, and we were like, great, we can acquire customers more cheaply than ever. So we ended up selling out basically all of our inventory. And that was a great opportunity for us. Now we're going to be manufacturing our biggest batch ever, and that's actually being manufactured right now, and is going to, be ready for sale in about a month. And we're excited about that.
Awesome. Now, given that that's coming up, the big manufacturing run you're doing now, can you talk just maybe real briefly in terms of what your past traction and sales were? Like how many customers have you guys had, growth rates, that type of thing?
Yeah, so we've been growing at 60% month over month. We're about to hit $300,000 in revenue, basically with like 5 months of real sales. So for us, it's just been getting inventory and selling it out. So like I said, that's been the main thing. But yeah, we've got this community of thousands of customers now, and that's great. And that did help our Republic campaign, because
Oh, for
we,
sure.
like a lot of it was just we haven't done too much marketing, but a lot of what we did was just tell our customers like, hey, we're doing this thing on Republic. If you believe in what we're doing, like you should check it out. And so that helped a lot.
Yeah, I imagine it would. And then what about, you guys are making shoes. There's obviously a lot of shoes out there. Do you guys have competitors in this space? And how do you look at, any potential competitors or kind of where you guys fit within the overall market?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So there are lots of competitor companies. Shoes are interesting because it's a very fragmented industry. So it's, an $85 billion industry. And so, but really, it's not like a winner takes all software business where, there's two or three companies really duking it out. And so it's really about what you can do. And it's like, it's not about like competitive responses as much. I would say it's more about like, what can you do? Can you do something that really resonates with people? And so for us, our approach has been like, let's be the best minimalism company. Like, let's make our shoes the most versatile. Let's be the minimalist brand out there. And that's like, let's do our thing, and we think that's going to be big. And we don't worry too much about what other people are doing, because other brands usually have different things that they're trying to own and different spaces that they're trying to take over.
Got it. And then in terms of your longer term strategy, it sounds like you guys have mostly been DTC, right? Kind of direct to consumer advertising to them. Do you have plans to expand more into, say, retail stores or have partners, or what other different ideas are you toying with in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes back to in the earlier part of our discussion. And really, it's like once you start cranking all these digital channels and you're like, okay, let's do some more channels. Well, retail is another channel. And so we definitely will get there. Not anytime soon, because I think we've got a lot of like open space in the digital world. And I don't think people are psyched to go into stores anymore, which has been another boost to
That's
our, it's actually benefited us quite a bit that we're not retail right now. And so I think for us, because there's so much opportunity out there in the digital space, and because no one wants to go in a store, it'll be probably a few years. It's my guess. I think we're like post-vaccine coming into retail, like whenever that is.
awesome. Now, for the investors, another very important thing, and honestly, one of my most important things when I'm looking at companies is the team that's behind it. I think we've gotten, to meet you today and a good idea of, who you are and your background. Can you maybe touch briefly upon some of the other key team members that you're working with and how they're, contributing to the success of Glyph?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one of the highlight is my co-founder Alan. He's our COO. He's one of my best friends. We met in grad school at Cornell. I kind of met him at the weekend before you get in. And was kind of like, oh, maybe I could start a company with that guy, because we were both very entrepreneurial and kind of like hit it off right away. And so we started this business at Cornell. We actually built the first advertising network on Amazon Alexa together. We did in 3 months. Like, we sold the ad space, we built the platform, we secured some early investment, and then Amazon blocked us. And we were like, oh my God, like, of course they would, and that was like this silly, but we were in grad school. We didn't really care. We were doing it for fun, but we loved working together. And so when the idea came around for this business, we knew that we already had that history and trust. I think a lot of it is like co-founder dynamics, all about trust. And we had that. And, Alan's this guy that he really just like grinds and gets stuff done. He grew up in Hong Kong in an apparel family. He's a mechanical engineer, so he leads all our R&D, all our logistics, all the fulfillment. So he's like the one that's getting the shoes to you and like making sure they get made properly. So I think we've been able to balance. We have our own like lanes, and we work pretty well together.
Awesome. And then do you have other full-time employees? Do you do like a lot of contractors, or, I'm assuming, partnerships and stuff for all the manufacturing?
Yeah, so that we have our manufacturing partners. Right now we're pretty lean, and so we work with several. We've had like several shoe designers. We've had like performance marketing people. our plan after this raise is now we really need to scale up, and we're going to relocate the company. Looks like to Boston, and like probably build out a more permanent team there.
Okay. Where are you located now, out of curiosity?
We came out to San Francisco. So we started in New York, came to San
Okay.
Francisco, and San Francisco's, we got into this accelerator, 500 startups, and they're also a fund. And so met a lot of people in the startup community and kind of like built that ecosystem up, and like met a lot of investors and stuff like that, met a lot of growth people. I think Boston's a great place where it's a business friendly place. There's a lot of shoe companies in Boston. There's going to be talent for us, I think, as we scale up our development efforts.
Awesome. And then I'm curious, how do you guys look at, your defensibility? So you've had this shoe, your marketing. If someone else came along and wanted to replicate this, do you have anything that's kind of your secret sauce in terms of how you've designed this shoe?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's no secret sauce. It's really about having a multi-layered approach. So we have, trademarks, we have design patents. The other major hurdle for a lot of people, and we've seen other companies actually try to make it and heard that they weren't able to, is that you'd have to put together your own supply chain. So when we built Glyph, we were on the ground, in China for 6 months, just like putting this thing together. So because people don't make this, and so you can't just go to a factory and be like, here, make these. For example, like, if you're selling sheets or something like that, well, everybody makes sheets. So you just go to a sheet factory and they have the relationship with all the vendors and so on, and they know how to make it. So this takes a lot of work and it's difficult, but that's not to say, of course, other people eventually could figure it out. And so for us, it's about scaling quickly and building up our brand. And that's like kind of your moat shifts as a company like ours. Like you'll see that most of even historically, if you look at some of the brands out there, like Diane von Furstenberg or Ralph Lauren, or like, they all started usually with a unique product. Like DVF, they had this wrap dress, and they were actually using the material from t-shirts, and that's why it was so comfortable. And so for a while, they were the only ones that could make that. And then, after a while, other people figured out how to make it. But at that point, DVF became DVF. And so then the brand became the moat. And so there's kind of this transition you have to go through.
Interesting. That's really a good insight and good to know. Maybe one of the last questions I'm kind of thinking of right now, but what's your long-term vision? Are you looking to be like a premier shoe brand, eventually branch into like different things? What's your vision today?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be shoes for the next few years, but our long-term mission is about really getting people to think about their relationship with the things that they own, and like considering that in all facets of their life, and figuring out like, are they spending too much money or too little money? Do they have like the right mix of products in their life? Like, could they be a little bit more free, a little bit happier? And so, in the future, we probably will expand into different categories, but what we've been doing now and what we'll continue to do is just keep having that conversation with people and putting out content around minimalism. That's the thing I think that we're most passionate about. In a lot of ways, Glyph is just a vehicle for us to bring that conversation to people.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you for your time today, Pranav. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share that, maybe I didn't get a chance to ask you, or just for either the investors or the entrepreneurs out there who are watching this?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. It's been a great experience for us. And man, I think like we're excited about equity crowdfunding. I think that's like a big thing out there, like, because it's so new to me. Like I hadn't even heard of equity crowdfunding maybe like 8 or 9 months ago. And just getting people in the public and our customers to invest has been a really great experience, and hearing from them about how they believe in us and what they're doing has given us a lot of confidence. And I think this is kind of going to become a thing. I think this is going to become a big thing, and I hope people check it out.
Well, that's awesome. I think we completely agree with you there, and we're on the same page. I think the potential, and there's so many changes right now that the SEC is kind of looking at in terms of changing the regulations that would even potentially make it bigger. So very excited to see where it leads. Well,
absolutely.
Thank you once again, Pranav. And for everyone who's watching this who wants to learn more about Glyph, they can head over to your campaign at republic.co. And thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Bye.